Alright, man, we are back again. This is CouchPotatoGM.com. That is the website. Couch Potato General Manager is the YouTube channel, man. We're here to talk about the number 3 team in the draft,
yes.
the New York Jets.
Jets.
I know the last couple of years I was leaving out the S, disrespectful, because, you know,
disrespectful kind of guy.
I didn't think they was that good, man. To be honest with you,
Jets
man.
Nation, man. Get at him, man. This guy.
Strud. Todd Bowles, man. He's out of there.
Out of there,
man. We're talking about the New York Jets off-season preview.
Yeah, man. And before we get to the preview, man, we're going to recap the 2018 season. I want to start with the big move. The Jets moving up from 6 to number 3, trading up. It was a risky move at the time because they weren't sure who was going to be on the board. They made this trade pre-draft. Got Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold fell to them.
Did they get bamboozled by the Colts? Or?
Yeah, I like what the Colts did. I ain't going to lie. But, you know, you want your franchise quarterback. Sometimes, you know, it happens. You got to give up a lot.
Gotta get your guy.
You know, the Cleveland Browns selected Baker Mayfield when a lot of people thought it was going to be Sam Darnold. So I think the Jets were happy to draft Sam Darnold at 3. Up and down season, man. More down and up. You know, Sammy the Savior. He had his best performance in Week 1 against the Detroit Lions. And after that, man, it's just been a lot of turnovers, injuries. But, you know, the bright side of things, they got an offensive guy now with Adam Gase. Your guy, man. You want to discuss Adam Gase, man?
Why you gotta be my guy?
That's your guy, bro.
That's not my guy.
That's not his guy?
That is his guy.
That's not my guy, man. They don't have to be my guy.
Along with Jay Cutler in the hip pocket. I'm saying, bro, that's, you know, facts.
Yeah, you take Gase, you gotta take Cutler.
Nah, man. Hell nah, man. I'm giving Gase back. I'm giving Gase back if that's the case. I can appreciate Gase as an offensive coordinator. I can appreciate him in that way. I think he's worked with not so great quarterbacks and gotten quite a bit out of them. You know what I mean? Tim Tebow, the aforementioned Jay Cutler, Ryan Tannehill. He's gotten more out of those guys than I ever anticipated that he could actually get out of them. So that's why I do like him as a coordinator, as a play caller. As a head coach, obviously, we understand, you know, Miami is a unique locale, but you got coaches doing blow in the facility under your watch. You know, the mass exodus of talented football players out of there, not unlike Chip Kelly in Philadelphia. Those are red flags. Those are red flags. You know what I mean? I understand sometimes guys got to go. You got to get the right mix of guys, get the culture right, whatever the case may be. But you know, particularly as a first-time head coach, he didn't have the cachet. You didn't have the cachet in order to make those kind of moves, those kind of decisions. You know what I mean? So it just you know, there was some success in Miami, but just not enough. Obviously, not sustained success. In New York, there's a different type of challenge now. You're dealing with the New York media, that spectacle and the expectations. Even though the Jets really haven't had any success in quite some time, unfortunately. So it's a different challenge, but a challenge all the same. So we'll see what the hire does for the Jets. As far as the 2018 season, though, you know, I thought Sam Darnold, you know, they obviously, you mentioned, they traded up to get their quote unquote franchise quarterback. I thought Sam Darnold was being graded on the curve, you know, from the preseason. You know, if he didn't fumble the snap, he was being praised. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, you know, I like you said, there were some ups and downs, and predominantly there were downs. Now with Gase, who has demonstrated the ability to at a minimum, put the quarterback in a position that they're comfortable with. You know, design things, the scheme to make them comfortable, highlight their strengths. So that combination could very well bear fruit, assuming Gase can handle the rigors of being a head coach, not just a play caller, and Darnold protects the football.
I think he got a bad go of it in Miami. I think to me, that's one of, there's a handful, but that's one of the worst front offices in the league. And I feel like, you know, I don't know if the Jets front office is much better, because I actually don't like the GM there.
That's the issue. That's
been
an issue for a long time.
But I like that he has a young quarterback who he can mold into the guy that he wants to mold him into, because he couldn't do that with Tannehill, because Tannehill was never healthy, and this is Peyton Manning had glowing things to say about Adam Gase. So
I don't from the Peyton Manning tree.
I mean, you know.
My thought process with theirs, where I disagree, that Miami notwithstanding, what I disagree with is the fact that Gase, the expectation that he will mold Sam Darnold into, I guess, the guy that everybody thinks, a lot of people think Sam Darnold can be. I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced of that. What I am fairly certain of is that Gase will adjust and build the offense, their approach, what they do formationally, conceptually, to make Sam Darnold as comfortable as possible. And that's a big part of coaching. As far as developing quarterbacks, that still remains to be seen as far as I'm concerned.
But look at
but I think in terms of doing things, a willingness to adjust his playbook to facilitate success for a guy's specific skill set, I think he's proven that.
But think like you named earlier. Think of the quarterbacks he's dealt with. Tim Tebow. That just, there's no coach that would have said it to him. That just wasn't just gonna happen. You got Cutler, he's Cutler, man. I got the cigarette in my mouth, and you know what I'm saying? Like he who cares? Like that's just Cutler.
So it remains to be seen.
Never had a chance.
It remains to be seen. That's why I'm not going to say that.
So my question would be this is my question to round it out is, would you be surprised if he developed Sam Darnold?
Yes.
Would you be surprised if he developed Sam Darnold with all the quarterbacks he's dealt with and all the mess he's dealt with?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Sam Darnold has talent, and he has to rein in that turnover gene that he has. So now I wouldn't be surprised if he could turn Sam Darnold around.
But again, when you say turn Sam Darnold around, are you talking about Sam Darnold becoming, this quarterback that matriculates the ball down the field, that protects it, that gets to his third and fourth reads? Is that what you're referring to? Are you referring to
decision maker, this is not on Gase though, but putting weapons around him? If you look at other quarterbacks in the league, like what the Eagles did for Carson Wentz, what the Bears did this season for Mitchell Trubisky, I think that's Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is better in a system with weapons around him. I don't think he can carry an offense. So I think the Jets need to provide that for him. Gase,
that doesn't sound like developing a quarterback though. How much development did you see out of Mitchell Trubisky this past season?
A lot better than last season.
It was a lot better because of what, though?
The scheme.
Okay, and in the supporting cast.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because you thought he took steps in terms of, from a technical standpoint, from a decision-making standpoint. I didn't necessarily see that. You know what I mean? That's two different things as far as I'm concerned.
But talent may be a part of
I think it is. But you know what? Sam Darnold played with a lot of talent at USC too. Played with a lot of talent at USC. You know what I'm saying? Hell, Mr. Trubisky in his 1 year started playing with a hell of a lot of talent offensively too. So it's more than that. Yes, that it's two-pronged. I don't think you can just have one without the other if you truly want to have sustainable success. But what I do believe is that they have the cap room. They got the cap room to really get aggressive and do a number of things on either side of the ball. Yeah. All right. They have an early draft pick, which they can turn into more draft capital if they see fit. Yeah. And Gase will build an offense that plays to the strengths of Sam Darnold.
And that's important.
It's very important.
And that's what he needs.
Yes. And that's the first step. That's the first step, along with the weapons. Yes.
The Jets, man, you look at the rankings, they were bottom third in a lot of categories. Yeah. They had nothing to hang their hat on, like, we can do this really well. They have a bunch of players. Leonard Williams, he's a player. Jamal Adams, Tremaine Johnson. These guys are players, but like we talked about it off camera, they need to bring in a lot of talent, some veteran leadership. Yeah. They need a lot on that team, man. So what do you think? Where do you think they start, Drew?
First of all, defensively, you got to start in the trenches. They don't have a guy who they don't have a pass rusher. They need a guy who can get to the quarterback. I mean, it's nice to have Leonard Williams, but he needs a guy to go with him to pair with him. Usually,
Brandon Graham.
Brandon Graham,
Dante
Fowler.
How about Ziggy Ansah? You know, they got Gregg Williams. They're going from a 4-3 to, or excuse me, a 3-4 to a 4-3.
And that's a big adjustment. It usually takes a couple off seasons to get your guys in there. We've seen it time after time. So yeah, they're going to this 4-3 aggressive defense.
Downhill,
a lot of blitzes.
Downhill, we coming after you, attacking style defense. And so with that pass rusher, Ziggy Ansah,
Brandon
Graham, and just got a lot of money. You're going to need a corner opposite Tremaine Johnson if you're going to be doing all that blitzing and attacking and having Jamal Adams lead the way. That's my guy. Yeah. Safety number 1. Thank you very much. You know, so I mean, we got to start in the trenches.
Well, Drew, I tend to agree with you. I think another thing, I mentioned Brandon Graham several times because I think this team, not only do they need proven veteran commodities, they need to use that cap space. They don't need to go necessarily insane with the guarantees just for the sake of spending the money, but make good decisions and pay up and be willing to pay up and in some instances maybe overpay. I like the name Brandon Graham came up because not only does he have the ability to get after the passer, he defends the run on his way into the passer, set the edge very well. He knows what it looks like. Nobody on this team really knows what winning consistently at this level looks like. We talked about it. Gase, you know, whether it be a byproduct of the front office and some of the issues he had with his roster and coaching staff, whatever the case may be, the leadership didn't seem to be in place. You got Jamal Adams. You know, he's just built that way. You know what I mean? I think Darnold just leads kind of by his play. And then, of course, as he plays better, he will ultimately become a better leader as well. But you need some guys who the rest of the team can kind of look to say, okay, he sets the example, he sets the tone, he knows what it looks like, he knows how to prepare, so the other guys can pick those things up, get those crumbs off the table, and start to build a winning culture because they just don't have one, and they haven't had one for a long time. So I really do think, in addition to obviously adding veteran-laden talent to this roster, which should provide them the flexibility that I think that they desperately need in the draft, they need to get some guys who actually know what it feels like, what it looks like, how to win.
So I said it off air, I'm going to say it now. You know, I think that, you know, the game plan for me and McCagnon it would be to, you got a lot of money, go into free agency, like you said, spend, you know, smartly. Is that a word? Smartly? Shrewd.
I'm not saying be tightwad.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying be tightwad.
Just be smart. Just be smart with what you're spending, and you know, go get you a Ziggy, get you a Brandon Graham. You know, you probably got to overpay anyways because you're in the New York market. You know, taxes and all that, whatever. But you know, fill the holes.
A veteran corner.
Get you a veteran corner. Fill the holes, and then when you go into the draft, you're kind of you can go best player available. You can afford to trade down. You know, and these deals don't have to be long-term deals.
Make it a desirable destination.
There we go.
You know what I mean? Again, there's a certain allure to New York, but again, there just hasn't been enough winning in the Jets organization over the last several years in order to really have people clamoring to come play for your team. You understand what I'm saying? So it will probably require you to overpay, but maybe you offset that by doing a little shorter on the deal. More money up front, you know, not necessarily as long and backloaded, and turn this thing around. Turn this thing around as quickly as possible. You have a lot of cap flexibility. You have a high draft pick. You know, if you're able to nail most of those positions in free agency, get that situated, you get to the draft, and at that point, you're looking at an edge rusher, perhaps, if you don't necessarily get too out of free agency, or maybe even a corner. What do you guys think about the corner at number 3?
So, yeah, the draft, I think the Jets' biggest need is the pass rusher and the cornerback. The top 2 pass rushers on the board, on the edge is Nick Bosa, Josh Allen from Kentucky. So, one of those 2 guys, if both of those guys are off the board, 1 and 2, that corner, to me, is the next guy is Greedy Williams. He's a big corner. I wouldn't call it physical, but he's a big corner, long length, athleticism. Put him next to Tremaine Johnson. And I think that's a good pick right there for number 3. I know you have another guy in mind, another corner.
Yeah, I like Byron Murphy. He's a smaller guy. I can liken him to Denzel Ward. I don't think that he's the hip pocket player. He's not as good in terms of the hip pocket player, in terms of staying in the receiver's hip pocket, but I think he can do it man-to-man corner. I would go with him over Greedy Williams.
And we got to think too, man, if the top two guys, pass rushers, are gone, maybe they went free agency for a cornerback. Mm-hmm. They're at number 3. That's a good trade back spot right there. You talked about the connection with John Elway at number 10.
Yep.
So maybe Denver trades up for a quarterback. They can trade down to 10, and there's a lot of talent on the defensive side. You can get your Murphy there. You get Murphy at number 10.
You could get your Murphy. You could get, they're talking about Jonah Williams falling. Sometimes I hear he's falling. Sometimes I don't hear he's falling. But if he's falling, you could get you you need a right tackle.
We got other risers coming up out of the Senior Bowl and stuff along that offensive line. So at that point, yeah.
And then the biggest I saw on this team, besides the defensive side of the ball, is the offensive side is a damn receiver, because you can't run around. You can't keep running around with Andre Roberts and Robbie Anderson, and you need a guy who teams have to game plan for. And right now,
you need number one.
Yeah, you need number one. I think Andre Roberts is more of a return specialist.
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson is a deep threat. Mm-hmm. New one, if he can ever stay healthy, is a good slot.
Yes.
It's just that number one receiver.
And his name right now, the number one receiver, everybody's talking about is was it DK? DK Metcalf.
Oh, I thought you was going somewhere. I thought you was going AB.
Oh no, I wasn't going down. The two previous teams probably get
everybody need an AB.
Everybody needs an AB.
Listen, would you trade the number 3 overall pick, assuming they did everything they need to do in free agency, defense and offense, and the only thing kind of left is that receiver? Would you trade for AB? They're not there yet?
Nah.
Okay, so we just gonna stick with the draft?
Let's stick with the draft.
Okay, we'll stick with the draft. Let us know how you feel about it. Y'all probably like, nah, bro, we're gonna go get him. But DJ Metcalf looks to be the most complete receiver coming out. So he's a number 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there at 3 either, man.
No, I'm saying if they trade down.
If they trade down.
They trade down with John Elway at 10.
Okay,
That's an excellent option.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, again, we mentioned it before. The cap space that this team has, and if they structure deals appropriately, they won't put themselves in a bad spot. But my thought process is, you mentioned it, get some established guys in, get some guys who know what it looked like. I think the 2 guys that need to be on the top of this list are going to be Trent Brown and Brandon Graham. Those are 2 guys that obviously have played for organizations that have had a lot of success here recently.
That's what it looks like.
Of course, New England's been having success for 20 years now.
The Jets know.
Of course, the Jets will be very familiar with that. I mean, that's the reality of things. But start there. Go ahead. Let's bring those guys in day one. The midnight, the legal tampering time, whatever it is. Just get that situated. Yeah. Get that situation. And then it just opens up so many options for you beyond that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's obviously more veterans to consider, but certainly, the more you're able to address in terms of guys that can produce, and you don't necessarily have to think about it. It's good money spent.
Yeah.
And then you got a lot of flexibility in the draft. I think that's the ideal situation for the Jets this offseason.
And maybe you're thinking about the future. Maybe you're thinking about, okay, we like you said, get everything set up in terms of free agency, and then go into the draft, and you can just trade down, and get your future set up in terms of the next draft or the draft after that, and pick accordingly. Because I'm not sure a receiver's going to go in the top 10 anyways.
Yeah.
But so. You could trade down more than once, a couple times, and then position yourself to draft that number 1 receiver.
There you have it, man. It's CouchPotatoGM.com, CP General Manager.
What?
I don't know. I just said Couch Potato. Yeah, man. Just like, subscribe, comment on the YouTube channel, man. Let us know what you guys think, man. This is going to be an active offseason. Who you looking to get? Who you looking to draft, man?
Pain is in the building.